Good morning. It is 11 a.m., so we're going to go ahead and get started with this month's labor market briefing. My name is Erin Duffner, and I'm with the Texas Workforce Commission Press Office. Thank you so much for joining us for the August Labor Release Media Briefing. We're glad you're all here to discuss the most recent employment data for the state of Texas, which you've been seeing a little bit of those highlights on the screen. So what will happen today is that we are going to go ahead and have a briefing, and during this time, we will be available to answer any questions that you may have about the most recent report. That news release came out this morning at 9 a.m. Today's briefing is specific to the Texas labor market data release. And if we cannot answer your question, please feel free to send us an email at press@twc.texas.gov, and we will work to fulfill your request. Now, this briefing does run from 11 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Opening remarks from TWC Chairman Daniel will take questions after the briefing. To ask a question, please raise your virtual hand in the chat, and I will make you a panelist. That will allow you to unmute and turn on your camera. You can also type a question in chat, and we will ask it. Please be aware that we are recording this media briefing and will make the recording available shortly after the conclusion of the event. Again, thank you for attending, and now let's hear the latest jobs data report from Chairman Daniel and Gabriel Guzman with the TWC Labor Market Information Department. Chairman?
This is a record-breaking month for Texas and our labor market report. We set records in the total number of jobs in the state, total number of Texans working, and then the size of the labor force. This caps off about nearly a 2-year run on some of these records. And our job gains, that's even a 30-month run. Unemployment rates remained fairly steady during this time period, and we've outpaced the nation in our annual growth rate at this point. There's a lot of information contained in this data. There are a lot of data points that I want you to get the benefit of. And so I've got Gabriel Guzman here. He's one of our leaders here in our labor market information division at TWC. And I'll just ask him to kind of dig into these numbers, show you these records, and then show you the context for what that means for the Texas economy. Gabriel?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. So as he said, a lot of good things continue to happen in Texas, which we'll go to in more detail with this report. So looking at the unemployment rate for Texas, as the chairman noted, the Texas unemployment rate again remained unchanged over the month at 4.1%. This marked 4 consecutive months at 4.1%. And of course, if you remembered from the previous briefings, this was preceded by 3 consecutive months at the rate being at 4.0%. At 4.1%, this marked the 8th lowest reading in series history going back to 1976, so a lot of history behind that. We're still above the U.S. unemployment rate of 3.8%. The U.S. unemployment rate did coincidentally move up 0.3 of a point. Not on here, but as the chairman alluded to, Texas reached another series high level in the labor force, 15,111,900 to be exact. This marked the 8th consecutive increase in the labor force as it increased by 33,500 persons over the month, 8th consecutive monthly increase, and the 36th increase since May 2020. Related to that, employment, people earning wages for a living moved up 24,300 people over the month and increased 39 out of 40 months of the last months. This also reached a 12th consecutive series high, so that also reaching milestones there. Unemployment did increase a little bit, 9,200 people, not a whole lot considering the civilian labor force is above 15 million. Looking at labor force participation rate, the Texas labor force participation rate stood again at 64.2%. Like the unemployment rate, this stayed at that rate for 4 consecutive months. We are above, as you can tell, the U.S. unemployment rate by the chart there. That rate was 62.8%. Texas in August at 64.2%. Was or matched the highest reading since January 2015 with a similar rating of 64.2%. Moving forward, to sub-state LAOS data, local unemployment statistics data, we see that Texas continued to add over 1 million people since COVID. We first met that threshold last month. And what we say the threshold, we mean February 2020, we mean before COVID. This month, the civilian labor force since that time period moved up 1,028,700 people. So over the year, since August 2022, the state added 514,300 since August 2022. This equated to an annual growth rate of 3.5%, which outperformed the nation as a whole at 1.9%. Looking over at the map, you see the sub-state metropolitan statistical areas. These are not seasonally adjusted. All of these areas are colored in, meaning they all grew annually over the year in terms of adding people to the labor force. They were led no stranger, at least the top two, Midland and Dallas-Fort Worth. Midland led at 5.5% as oil and gas mining continues to do well in that area. The astounding thing, Dallas continues to beat records. Dallas, one of the largest MSAs in the state, moving up 4.6%. That labor force above 4 million. So definitely as that percentage is at the top, that's pretty astounding because the size of labor force makes that really astounding. Odessa at 3.9% increased over the year, followed by Beaumont, Port Arthur 3.7, and Round Rock at 3.6. As this data shows, this growth is being experienced all across the state, different regions in North Texas, West Texas, East Texas as well. So definitely good things there. In terms of the job count, total non-farm increased for the 39th out of the last 40 months as we reached a 23rd consecutive high, 14,979,100 after we increased by 16,700 jobs over the month. Since last year, we added 402,000 jobs for an annual growth rate of 3%. This was down, however, from the previous year of 6%, so basically half of that rate. But when considering where we were pre-COVID, we're a full percentage point above that. So in other words, in February 2020, we're at 2%. Right now, we're currently at 3%, so still outperforming where we were then. The private sector also reflected this at a 3% annual growth rate. And for the 27th consecutive month, every major industry in Texas grew annually. Also, Texas outperformed the U.S. 3% to 2% overall. Looking at the major industries, 11 major industries, we see that 7 major industries added jobs over the month. They were led by the government sector with 12,100 jobs. Local government was the main driver of this, up 10,400. Leisure and hospitality was next, up 9,100 jobs, mainly driven by accommodations and food services, which include restaurants and hotels, things like that. That was up 6,300 jobs. Other services, which includes repair and maintenance services, personal care services, charitable organizations, up 5,000. And then third place, financial activities, up 3,300, roughly equal between financial and insurance and real estate rental and leasing, both up 1,800, and then and then the real estate up 1,500. I just wanted to take a note real quick, and if you notice, the private education health services down 7,300. Not too concerned about that. We're just 2 months removed from a series high level there, and so also this is about 80% of this sector is made up of private healthcare. As private healthcare and education go directly correlated, strongly correlated to population growth. As you know, Texas has continued to add people year over year, so not concerned about that at all. Switching gears, looking at the metropolitan statistical area job growth, we see that every bar being positive above the x-axis there, meaning they've added jobs year over year. In fact, we have actually met 28 consecutive months of annual growth for these areas. They were led by Midland again, not unlike the growth in civilian labor force, with job growth of 5.9%. Dallas, Plano, Irving, which is a subset of the DFW area, up 4%, followed by Fort Worth, Arlington, up 3.9%. So again, the areas in yellow are those areas that have not surpassed their COVID level, the February 2020 level. That would be Beaumont, Port Arthur, Odessa, and Wichita Falls. Wichita Falls orange because it having met the pre-COVID level before, fell back behind that about 3 months ago. Did not change over the month, so it's still below that threshold. Odessa is about 99% of the pre-COVID threshold and about 800 jobs off. But recently speaking, it's up 3.6% over the year, so strong growth there exhibited recently. Beaumont furthest behind at 98.5%, but had annual growth of 2.5%. It's 2,500 jobs off, so definitely those areas are still moving in the right direction. Quickly shifting over to average annual earnings. These are the earnings that BLS puts out every month for specific private industries. So over the year, the total private earnings increased $1.58, or equated to about a 5.3% growth rate to $31.59 for August 2023. Overall, four private industries surpassed that. They were financial activities, construction, manufacturing, and leisure and hospitality. Financial activities led all of the industries with an 11.6% growth rate, followed by construction at 11.2%. I just wanted to point out real quick, manufacturing 9.8%. On the employment side, also had a 21-year high in employment. So growth in employment also being manifested in the growth of wages. Switching gears to Texas continued claims, we see that they still remain relatively low. There's a slight nudge up in continued claims, nothing to cause alarm. So the 4-week average for initial claims up 927 over the month, and 869 over the year. Continued claims up 983 and 39,185 over the year to land at 144,900. When looking at the 10-year average, August before COVID, initial claims, the average was 14,450. So we're right in line with that, with the August number of 15,200. And then the continued claims, that was 167,700, whereas now we're at 145,900. So considering that the state has grown significantly since then, past 13 years, we're above 15 million, nothing to cause alarm there. So just to recap, this month's labor market report, seasonally adjusted, 3 milestones that we're continuing to break. Civilian labor force, new high, 15.1 million. Number of employed, those citizens that are earning wages for a living, 14.5 million. And then the number of jobs, 23 consecutive increase, or 23 consecutive series high, 13.98 million, just a hair under 14 million there. And the unemployment rate, again, remained at 4.1%, which is relatively low, historically speaking. That concludes our presentation for this morning. I will hand it over to any questions over the chair.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much. Good in-depth report. I think there's a lot of good numbers in there. I think at this point, Aaron, I would probably open it up to any questions that might be out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Gabriel. We'll go ahead and open up the briefing for questions. Again, just be sure to go in, raise your virtual hand. We'll make you a panelist where it will allow you to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera. We'll wait just a few moments for those virtual hands. All right, just one more moment for any virtual hands with any specific questions for Chairman Bryan Daniel, or certainly for Gabriel Guzman about the 2023 August labor market data. Still taking questions. Go ahead and raise your virtual hand if you do have a question, or you can also put your question in the chat and we will ask it on your behalf. All right, Chairman, we do have one question. You know, over the past couple of months, as you were mentioning, we've seen a really low unemployment rate, continued job growth in Texas. Do you expect those trends to continue?
It's hard to predict the trends. What we've been looking at is about 2 years of sustained numbers that look very similar. So we're seeing consistent job creation month over month over month. We're seeing fairly consistent unemployment claim rates that would be well within the margins of what we would typically expect to see. If you dig into the numbers a little further, you'll see fluctuations monthly in the 11 major industry employment that are well within what we would typically see fluctuating. Those always move back and forth month to month. I think the last 2 years, what we've seen is pretty indicative of the state's economy and how it's operating. The business operating environment here, I think the employment environment here have led to a fairly stable environment for businesses to operate in. And so they're hiring a lot of people. There's still probably 600,000 to 700,000 jobs open in the state right now, and about 600,000 people who are telling us that they're unemployed in the monthly polling. So that would indicate at this point that there's actually more vacancies than there are unemployed folks. That's indicative of a skills gap that is just due to technological changes in the marketplace. I think people are doing appropriate upskilling and reskilling to fill that. And what I would say is that barring any kind of change in the economy, nothing from what we're seeing would tell us to look for something different next month. Economic downturns, unfortunately, do happen. Natural disasters can and will happen. And while we haven't seen anything like that yet, we don't know what's on the horizon relative to either one of those things. So we'll continue to monitor the numbers. And in the event something does happen to maybe cause a negative effect on the Texas workforce, there's just a number of programs here at TWC that would allow us to provide both short-term and intermediate long-term assistance to people who are working and who might be affected by that. So, I think my summary would be we've got 24 good months that we've seen happen. Everything moving into the future would indicate that it's likely to operate along what we've seen over those 24 months. But if we do happen to see a natural disaster or some type of national or global economic downturn, I think we'll have plenty of time to react to that and be able to put in place some programs that we have finely tuned to deal with these kinds of situations.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chairman. Are there any additional questions? Again, if you want to raise your virtual hand or put your question in the chat, we're more than happy to answer that question now. All right, seeing no additional questions at this time, we will be closing the labor market release briefing. Thank you all for being here. The next labor market release is scheduled for October 20th. That's a Friday. Again, same time, same place, 11 a.m. And we look forward to seeing you soon. And just wrapping up with a few extra words and closing comments from Chairman Daniel. Chairman?
Just say this. I appreciate everybody's interest in these labor market figures and this monthly data dive that we do. The Texas workforce has been performing really well. There's still a number of opportunities for people out there. If you're just graduating, you're just getting in the workforce, you're in the workforce and you know it's time to make a change, or you found yourself not really wanting to or able to continue work where you are, contact your Workforce Solutions office nearest you or contact us at TWC because there's an opportunity there. I think we can really help you with some career planning that might be helpful to you. All in all, strong set of numbers. Appreciate the employers and their commitment to the state of Texas. Appreciate all the Texans, those participating in the labor force and those that are doing other things. This state is where it is because we have that good participation rate, both on the employer side and on the workforce side. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Great to see everyone. Again, we will go ahead and email out a copy and recorded information of this briefing. The next market release is October 20th at 9 a.m. with the labor market briefing at 11 a.m. Thanks so much for joining.